Hello, everybody.
Afternoon, Eric.
Hey, Michael. All right, so it's 1:30 on the dot. Looks like we've got Michael Renfro, City of Oakdale. Mike Pitcock from City of Waterford. Christie's here from Stanislaus County. Got Gordon from Modesto Irrigation District, myself from Oakdale Irrigation District. City Modesto here. Not seeing City Modesto yet. And I'm not seeing City of Riverbank. But we do have a quorum, so let's go ahead and get started here. So with the time now being 1:31, I will call the October 12th, 2022 STRGBA GSA meeting to order. Got a couple members of the public joining us, so welcome. And we have a quorum. So moving into item number 2, this is going to be business from the public. As usual, interested persons are welcome to introduce any topic within the agency's jurisdiction. Matters presented under this heading may be discussed, but no action will be taken by the agency at this meeting. So we will offer the public that opportunity. Okay, seeing no hands raised. I'll note that Michael Rydell has just joined us. Welcome, Michael.
All right.
So for this remote teleconferencing, we've got to take care of the remote teleconferencing participation resolution and get that approved. So Gordon, do you want to run through that quickly? I see you've joined us as well, by the way. So Gordon, let the record show Gordon's here as well from MID. Want to speak to the resolution, Gordon, or do you want to? We've gone through this several months now. One of the things I will note, and this continues to be effective for the 30 days. At the end of the meeting, I'll run through AB 2449, which we all need to be aware of and get ready for by the start of the year. So I'll run through that at the end under the items too late for the agenda, just to discuss. So are there any questions, comments from member agencies on item number 3, the remote teleconferencing participation? Okay, open it up to the public. Any questions from the public? Questions, comments? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item number 3.
Thank you, Michael. Redell. Have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Gordon. Last chance for comments from the public or member agencies. Well, hearing none, seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving right into item number 4 on the agenda. This is the meeting minutes. These are the meeting minutes from the August 10th, 2022 GSA meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those meeting minutes. If so, I'll entertain a motion when everybody's prepared to do so.
Motion, Eric. Oakdale.
Thank you.
Second, Waterford.
Thank you, Mike. Comments from the member agencies on the minutes? Moving out to the public on the minutes. Seeing no hands raised and hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Excellent. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item number 5. This is
Eric? Hey,
Yes.
sorry, did you want to do item number 3
we
the
did.
re-
No, we took a vote. Why were
on
you
the
getting
re-
on the phone?
on the remote
Phone
telecom?
meeting. Yep, we're good.
Okay, sorry.
Nope, it's all right. So item number 5 is the 2022 annual report. So we've got a proposal from Todd Groundwater that was included in the agenda. And then followed by that, there's a presentation on some of the fall monitoring event data that'll be required. That's item number 6. And item number 7 is going to be part of that presentation as well, which will be an update on dry wells in our area. So we'll kind of take these one by one. Liz, I think you're going to lead that conversation. Okay,
Yes,
so-
I'll get us started.
Okay, and then we'll just break in between each one generally to give everybody a chance to comment and ask questions on those specific items, if you would.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Thank you.
I will share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining. As Eric said, we'll be leading the discussion on the next 3 agenda items. And the agenda will be, I can change my slide here. So we'll be talking about the 2nd annual report. We'll have a very brief discussion on the fall 2022 monitoring event, which is coming up soon. And then I will pass the baton over to Phyllis, and she will give you all an update on dry wells in the subbasin. So to get started, the 2nd annual report, it's here already. It's hard to believe. Feels like we just finished the first one. But this 2nd annual report is going to cover water year 2022. And as Eric mentioned, we recently submitted a proposal to the GSA, which is included in the agenda packet for doing this report, and a couple of extra items. So this annual report is water year 2022, which is October 2021 through September 2022. And this will build on the 1st annual report, and it will include several things. It'll include 2 groundwater level monitoring events. The first one will be fall 2021, and the second spring 2022. And I should note that the spring 2022 monitoring event is the first monitoring event that was done after we submitted the GSP last January. There'll also be a model update for water year 2022. This update will cover just 1 year. And that's because the 1st annual report had a model update that bridged the period from the end of the GSP study period, which is water year 2015, through water year 2021. So it was a 6-year update for last year's report. This year, it's just 1 year that they'll be updating the model for. We will be updating the hydrographs for the representative monitoring wells in the monitoring network with both the fall 2021 and spring 2022 water level data, and any water level data that's been collected since the spring 2022 event, between the spring 2022 event and the end of September, the end of the water year. We'll also be developing groundwater elevation contour maps for the different principal aquifers for both fall 2021 and spring 2022. And based on the modeling work, and I should mention that we're going to be working with Woodard and Kern on this, they will be updating the model, and they will be developing water budgets based on the model results for water year 2022. They'll also be looking at the change in groundwater and storage within the subbasin, both cumulatively and also just during water year 2022. And we'll be building on the water quality analysis that was that we provided in the 1st annual report. If you recall, the 1st annual report had sort of a baseline water quality analysis. And so we'll be building on that for this report. We'll also be updating the subsidence information that was provided in both the GSP and the 1st annual report. INSAR data is published by DWR periodically, and we'll be looking at the subsidence data that was updated for water year 2022 and presenting that to see what's been going on in the subbasin. So we'll be making a data request to the member agencies for the data that we need for this annual report. And the first thing we'll be asking for is surface water operation information from both Modesto Irrigation District and Oakdale Irrigation District. This will include Tuolumne River and Stanislaus River inflow, both surface water diversions and deliveries, Modesto Reservoir seepage, canal seepage losses, and operational spills and return flow information. We're also interested in knowing whether any new wells, any new production wells have been constructed in the last year. And if so, we'd love the construction information about that so that we can incorporate that into the model. We'll also like groundwater level data. Since the spring 2022 monitoring event, we have the data for the spring 2022 monitoring event already, and we've uploaded that to DWR, or I should say you guys have uploaded it to DWR, and we took a look at that. So we would just request any water level data that's been measured since spring 2022. And we'd also like the groundwater production data for the entire water year. And we'll need that from all of the member agencies. So Modesto Irrigation District, Oakdale Irrigation District, and then the cities of Modesto, Riverbank, Oakdale, and Waterford. So we'll be requesting this data by the end of December. It's pretty important that we get this data by the end of the year so that we can really hunker down and analyze it during the months of January and February, because we have a pretty aggressive schedule. And this is sort of a summary of very tentative schedule, but these are based on known meeting dates of the GSA and sort of working around that to make sure that we can get annual report deliverables to you for review, and so that they can be discussed at the meetings. So here, all of the dates that are underlined in red are deliverables for the annual report, and the items that are underlined in blue are the GSA meetings. And I also circled them on the calendar on the right. So we'll be aiming to get a draft annual report to the GSA by the end of February 24th. This is so that it can be reviewed and then will be presented at the March 8th STRGBA GSA meeting. And the goal is then to post this draft annual report to the STRGBA website after that GSA meeting, so the public will have access to it. Comments both from the GSA and from the public are due tentatively on March 17th, with revisions and a final report ready by the 24th. And then there is another GSA meeting scheduled for the last Wednesday of March, March 29th, where we'll be presenting the final report and including a discussion on how the public comments were addressed. And then the GSA will approve the final annual report. And following that meeting, we will submit it to DWR. It's due on April 1st. So that is all I have on the annual report. Does anybody have any questions?
We'll open it up for the member agencies first. We talked about this at our TAC planning group meeting. We really wanted to make sure that the public had an opportunity to participate. So we did add that second meeting in March to allow that to happen. Hopefully everybody can make that work in their schedule. It's pretty far advanced notice, so we were thinking it wouldn't be a problem, but obviously speak up if you think that's going to create an issue for you. Okay, any questions, comments on this plan from the public? Mike, you got your hand up? Go ahead, Mike. You're on, there you go.
Yeah. What's the plan for getting diverters who are coming out of the river with like statements of diversion, that sort of thing, into the report?
Well, I would defer to MID and OID. Do you have more information about that?
Yeah, that's not typically something we include in the annual report, right?
Okay, so you haven't been, I know when you first did the modeling, there was some effort to make sure we were getting some of the riparian water users into your water budget.
Yeah, I would need to check with Woodard and Kern on that. I don't have.
Yeah, hi, Mike. It's Phyllis Stannon. So yes, of course, we will be getting that information to the extent that it's reported. Woodard and Kern will pull that information just like they have in the past. But I think Eric is correct that we don't typically like tabulate those separately or call them out in some table. We'll certainly address that in the text of the report that we've pulled in and go through the data sources and the information that was used for the model update. I know it's in the model now, historically, and my anticipation is that we're going to be able to pull those data again. That's our plan.
Thank you.
Right. So that's typically stuff that they're supposed to report online. We pull that data when it is reported online and integrate it into our model. Right, Phyllis?
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, we don't. I guess I was thinking we don't solicit that information from them directly, but we do pull the data when it's available, and they are required to report it online through the state system. Okay, any other questions at this point? Not seeing any hands raised yet. Okay, are there any questions on the proposal itself? Okay, why don't we keep moving forward, Liz, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Thanks.
So the second agenda item that we'll be discussing, this is agenda item number 6, is the fall 22 monitoring event. We don't have a slide for this other than this one that you're looking at. But we just wanted to remind the member agencies that.
Can I interrupt you real quick, Liz?
I'm sorry?
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Oh, sure.
Sorry. So actually, item number 5, the annual report proposal, that's an action item. So we want to get that approval of everybody's comfortable doing that. I'd entertain a motion to approve the proposal.
So move.
Thanks, Gordon. For a second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any further questions or comments from the member agencies on the proposal for the 2022 annual report preparation? Questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks. Sorry about that, Liz.
No problem. So yeah, just a few brief things about the fall 2022 monitoring event. So as you probably know, SGMA requires that the subbasin member agencies monitor the monitoring wells that are in the monitoring network twice a year, one in spring and one in fall. The spring in theory is catching the high water levels and the fall is catching the low after the irrigation season has ended. And so it's my understanding that the member agencies are planning to do the fall 2022 monitoring event starting the end of October and early November. And so they will be measuring water levels and all of the representative monitoring wells that are in the monitoring network. And those wells are presented in the GSP as well as the first annual report. And we'll be using that data, not for this annual report, because this is now technically water year 2023, but we will be taking a look at it next spring after we finish the second annual report. So does anybody have any questions?
Any questions from member agencies on that? I'm going to be looking to get our data request out here. We're going to be picking up the, I think we have a date in the first, we were planning on the first week full week in November to pick those up generally. Questions from the member agencies before I move it to the public? Comments? Okay, we'll move it to the public. Mike, you're up. You got your hand up?
Yeah, I recall when we developed the GSP that we had some pretty big data gaps in certain areas, particularly in the east, and was wondering if we've added any monitoring sites there to be able to improve our data on the east.
Yeah, go ahead, Liz. You know all about that project.
Oh, sure. So the answer is yes, with the Prop 68, which was an add-on to the GSP grant, planning grant. We got $1 million grant from TWR and installed 17 monitoring wells at 11 different locations throughout the subbasin. Included in that are several wells, I want to say 4 or 5 in the non-district east area or in the eastern subbasin. And yes, so those wells were installed between, I think, February and we finished up last June 2021. And so we have collected some initial water level data from those wells. But you know, since then, more data has been collected and will be presented in this annual report. So they do help to fill in data gaps. They are, we, you know, obviously still have data gaps, but they are very helpful.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in here. This is Phyllis again. Hi, Mike. We haven't added anything since the GSP and since the additional wells that Liz just spoke about. But what we do have coming up, and Eric is going to update us on a future agenda item here. We're just almost to that, number 8, on a grant application. But this grant that we are preparing for the big project in the eastern portion will, it doesn't specifically include monitoring wells, but it's going to allow for some additional planning and testing in that area that we hope will sort of spring forth some locations that would be available for us. And I think after we begin to see how the project is progressing, we'll be able to do that in the future. We thought it was just a little premature to do this until we see exactly how the projects in the eastern portion are going to be, you know, laid out, and that's all being worked on now. So I'm stealing Eric's thunder. He'll update us again on the grant.
Oh, that's all right.
Does that answer your question, Mike? Nothing's been added since the GSP. I'm assuming it.
So I'm just trying to catch up. It's been a while, and Hillary couldn't make it today. Do we know where those 17? We have maps then of those 17 new well sites.
Oh my goodness, yes, and that's actually in the GSP.
In the GSP, okay, that makes. Okay.
And those will all be part of this monitoring that we're doing, this fall monitoring event. And we collected data once they went in too. So this will be our second data point essentially. Right, Liz?
Yes, some have a
third.
few more, but a lot of the initial ones were just right after the wells were installed. But
Yeah.
this is technically the second event for most of the wells.
Okay, any other comments, questions before we move on to item number 7? Okay, let's move into the dry well update, item number 7.
Okay, I will pass it over to Phyllis.
All
Thanks
right.
so much, Liz. So as everyone might recall, the GSP requires an implementation step where the GSAs are going to improve their understanding of the domestic well data that's in the subbasin and how it best compares to areas where we do have declining water levels. And so as a first initial step, we've been tracking dry well reports that are provided to us. The Department of Water Resources has 2 online tools to allow GSAs to better understand where domestic dry wells are occurring throughout the entire Central Valley, including the Modesto subbasin. And those data are reviewed by the GSAs and tabulated, and we've been reporting on those in the monthly GSA meetings. And so I'm just giving an update. And we now have information for the first 3 quarters of 2022. And so the information from this is just a screenshot from the California Groundwater Live website that you can go on and keep up with this yourself if you would like. This shows information for domestic dry wells that have had issues with respect to production, either producing sandy water, muddy water, or have just ceased to produce altogether. For the first 9 months of 2022, there have been 8 such reports, 3 of which have been resolved and 5 of which are still outstanding. You can see the resolved ones by the blue dots, and the unresolved wells that still are having issues are shown there by the red dots. And this is certainly we want to be able to keep up with this. That makes sense to us that we are seeing water level declines in these areas. And so as a result of that, I think that some of these shallow older wells that weren't drilled sufficiently deep to anticipate these water level declines that have been occurring and are expanding, it made sense to us. And in fact, in the GSP, these are 2 of the areas, 2 of these are the areas that we had predicted that we might see domestic well failures. It's certainly not anything close to what we saw in the drought of record. So that's the good news part of it. You recall we had approximately 159 wells that had issues during the GSP analysis, but we keep up with this so that we can better understand where the water level declines are occurring and how they are impacting any of the domestic wells and where they may be impacting domestic wells in the future. So we've got a handle on this. We do have state funding and additional resources that are available for assistance for domestic well owners that have problems with their wells. And our GSA's goal, of course, is to get projects in place as quick as possible so that we can begin to arrest these declines and prevent additional wells in the future from being impacted. We certainly want to avoid the widespread impacts that we saw during the drought conditions of 2015 through 2017. So this is just something that we've been updating the public on as well, along with the tracking that the GSA is doing internally. Be glad to answer any questions on any of this.
One thing I'll point out is that red dot there farthest to the east, that's pretty close to that Paul Cell Valley area, actually. So I think it's right outside of it probably. So that's one of the areas that when I talk about the next project, that gives you kind of a location in the basin of where we're trying to get that water to. So comments, questions from the member agencies? Okay. We'll move it out to the public. Any comments, questions on the dry well report? Yep. Go ahead, Mike.
Does DWR, they say there's new outages and resolve, do they provide any more detail? Like, do they have to drill a new well or what they did to resolve those 3?
If they have the information provided from the domestic well owner on what the resolution has been for the well, then they do post that online. For example, one of these wells that was resolved was a deepening of an existing well. That older well was only, I think, 80 feet deep. So they deepened that for a couple of additional 100 feet. So that gives you an example of the kinds of things that are reported on the household water shortage website by DWR, but it is a voluntary self-reporting website. So we don't always have exactly how the domestic well owner resolved the issue. As I said, many of these well owners are being directed to some of the resources that are available. You might be familiar with Self-Help Enterprises, who has been really the champion of assisting the domestic well owners throughout the San Joaquin Valley when they have difficulties. They have state funding through a variety of programs to assist the domestic well owner, not only technically, but also financially, with deepenings or pump lowerings, or in some cases, even well replacement.
Yeah, and also I just recently went through this with one of the residents that we have in town, that their well went dry, and you basically have it's called dry well reporting system through the state of California. And when you go through, you'll supply them the information on the well and all that kind of good stuff. And then depending on who's the one reporting it, whether it's the agency or it's the individual, then they can supply them with information on, as Phyllis just said, technical information or financial support or something like that. It's fairly straightforward. They do go into depth on the old well data if you have it, right? So that will really depend on who has the information on the well. In this case, it was a property owner and didn't have a lot of information on it, but I supplied what I could.
Yeah, and we have links to the dry well reporting system, and then also some other tools for reporting dry wells and understanding your dry well susceptibility area and that sort of thing on the STRGBA.org, our website, under the resources tab.
Yep, that's where I found it.
Good. Now we know at least somebody used it. Yes. All right. Any other questions or comments on the dry well update here? Okay. Thanks, Mike. And thank you, Michael. Okay, so topic number 8. We talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. And actually, Phyllis, well, it's okay. I made my point that in that map, the Paul Cell Valley is an area that we supply water to. It's a valley that, based on the contour, our canal runs through some high ground that's higher than the canal, and then into that valley where area can be irrigated by gravity flow, historically has been able to be irrigated by gravity flow. And so was thus integrated into the district boundaries there. But all
I'm sorry, maybe if Liz can pop back up that map.
I was hoping to have the map from the last couple slides from last time, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's all, they didn't make them into the agenda, unfortunately, but
No problem, but it always helps to see a map.
yeah. There we go. So where that red dot is, you can see Modesto Reservoir there. So, and then Dry Creek, where that red dot is, that's right along Dry Creek, and just north of Dry Creek, around that red dot, is the Paul Cell Valley. But everything, that whole valley is surrounded by lands that are considered part of the non-district east and outside of any irrigation district. So they are completely reliant on groundwater for their supply. And I think in our GSP, if I remember correctly, I think there's about 30,000 acres out there. And that's the area in our basin that is in overdraft, and where the problem lies as far as reaching sustainability for us from a supply standpoint and a supply and demand standpoint. So round 2 grant funding is, the enrollment period has now opened, and the turnaround was tighter than we expected. The applications are due by the end of November, as I understand it. There is $230 million available, and up to $20 million available per basin. It's going to be highly competitive. So you'll probably remember that round 1 grant funding was only available to critically overdrafted basins. We are high priority, but not critically overdrafted here in the Modesto Basin. So we were ineligible for round 1. We are eligible for round 2. And so we, Oakdale Irrigation District, we've gone through a program now that we're going through the CEQA process for a program to provide out of district water for a 10-year period to a number of lands. That enrollment period for that program has closed. We've had great participation thus far and interest in that program. We had 12,500 gross acres 10,500 irrigated acres enroll in that potential program. We're going to run through the CEQA process, hopefully going to have a document, mitigated neg deck is what we're expecting. And we're going to get that document out hopefully by early December to get things rolling along and potentially be in a position to provide water as soon as March 2023 to those that have turnouts in place. This program that we're looking to really kind of right on the back of that is enlargement of the Paul cell lateral. So the Paul cell lateral, as I mentioned, runs essentially from our South Main, which is pretty close to the Stanislaus River there. So the Stanislaus River is the northern portion of our district boundaries, the basin boundaries. And there's a lateral that runs from that South Main down to where the red dot is. And we need to enlarge that to allow the capacity to not only more efficiently and more effectively meet the needs of our in-district lands in the Paul Cell Valley, but also of the in-district needs of the Tier 2 lands that were annexed here in the last 10 years. And that's about 5,000 acres. But additionally, we want to provide a supply to, in years when we have the water available, to out-of-district lands. And there's about 4,000 acres out there that has applied as part of the 10-year program to get water from us, but we would have a difficult time providing that, without impacting our in-district constituents, without doing this project. So we're proposing to increase the capacity of that lateral from about 30 CFS up to about 150, 180 range, 180 at the heading, and then kind of tapering down from there. So it's a big enlargement. We could do it in the footprint, but it's a long canal. It's a long, windy canal. Just between Warnerville Road and the heading is about 5 miles, and we're looking to go about 2 miles downstream of Warnerville to do that enlargement. So we've got 2 tunnels, several culverts, some road crossings, a number of structures, and we'd also like to automate that so that the water will be automatically conveyed down the lateral most efficiently without having any operational spill out the end of the system. So we believe that project, early numbers indicate that we're going to be up at that $20 million range. And we want to do as much as we can with that money to get that water to the non-district east where we've got that overdraft problem. So OID is going to fund the grant application, and we're preparing that now. We also are looking to likely fund the CEQA for this enlargement as part of our contribution to the project as well. But we're looking for grant funding to do the construction. The one thing that's going to be kind of tough for us is the construction. Part of the terms in the grant is the construction has to be done and the funds have to be spent by June, I believe it is, June 2025. So it's going to be a quick turnaround for construction as well. We believe we can make that happen. Last week, we went out and did conducted a field review and a survey and inventory of everything again to make sure that all the records we have are correct and understand what we're dealing with so we can get a more accurate cost estimate together for that work. David's Engineering is putting together the grant application for us. So we're rolling right along. We will be drafting a template for letters of support, requesting those letters of support from all of the agencies, the member agencies of the GSA. Additionally, as I get more information together, I'm hoping to come back with a more polished presentation of what the project is going to entail. Culvert replacements, tunnel work, all of that kind of stuff, where that's located. So I'm hoping to do at least a little more in-depth presentation at the next meeting, followed by a request to approve a resolution from the GSA as a whole to support the project. So we're covering our basis in the grant application. So I just wanted to bring that back. We talked about it last meeting, but I wanted to say it a second time in case anybody had additional questions now that they thought about it more, and for anybody who wasn't on the phone during the last meeting and wasn't aware of the project. So with that, I'll take any questions, comments, concerns from the member agencies. Just really want to make sure that everybody's on board to support the project. Okay, if silence is a support, then I'll take it.
Hey, Eric, this is Miguel City Modesto. This is a very good project that hits at the heart of, like you're saying, the problem area. So I'm pretty excited on our end that OID stepping up and just going straight towards where we need the water the most. I want to, commend OID for doing that. And you have our full support.
Thank you, Miguel. Very much appreciated.
I agree.
Good. Thank you, Christy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, well, excellent. We'll give the public an opportunity to ask any questions if there are any about the project. Okay, good.
Hey, Eric,
Yep.
where can we see the Sequodoc then? Is that already hit the streets or is that still being drafted?
So there's two different projects here. One is the out of district project, water supply project, which there's more service area involved in that, even north of the Stanislaus River and in the East San Joaquin Basin. That 12,000 acres isn't all on this project. So this project, this pulse cell enlargement is 4,000 of that 12,500. So that CEQA document for the 10-year out of district water supply program is being drafted. It should come out. We're hoping to have it out on the streets and available for public review and input at the end of the year, probably December is what we're kind of aiming for, that early December meeting of ours, first week in December, or second week in December rather. We have our board meeting on the 13th of December, I believe it is. So you'll likely just keep an eye out for that CEQA document for the out of district water program at that point. The CEQA document for this proposal, this enlargement, would not occur until after we were successful in being awarded the grant, because that'll really give us an understanding of how much. If we're awarded the full 20 million, then the CEQA document's going to cover the whole thing. If we're not awarded the whole 20 million, then we might do a portion of it and try to do what we can with the money that we receive, and that'll kind of dictate the scope of the CEQA document at that point. So there's nothing available yet.
Thanks. And I echo Miguel's comments about great to see some things happening on the east there. I know that's a big concern.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Anybody else on that? Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your support. We'll be talking more at the next meeting. So item number 9 really is just to let you all know that we're looking at a November 9th date at 1:30, again on Zoom, for our next STRGBA GSA meeting. So questions, comments from the member agencies on that date?
So Eric, it's Michael. That will be my last meeting. I'm actually retiring the 16th of December. So I will be, hopefully I'll have somebody to stick in the seat by then, but my understanding is they're running with a little bit of issue of trying to find somebody to replace me. So he may or may not. No, it's not. So depending on what goes on, but eventually there'll be somebody in there to step in, right? So I'll certainly leave them a good list of what needs to be, what they're involved in. So
thank you, Michael. Congratulations. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions, comments on the next meeting from the public? All righty, moving on to item number 10, which is items too late for the agenda. I just wanted to briefly let everybody know, if you weren't already aware, of AB 2429. So on the 13th of September, Governor Newsom signed into law AB 2449 rather. And so that is, they're calling it the latest development of the Brown Act in a post-pandemic world. So there's new amendments to the Brown Act that will go into effect on January 1st. kind of from a high level, what it does is it allows you to continue to do remote teleconferencing meetings, but realistically, even if you do that, you have to have in-person meetings and at least a quorum of members in attendance at the in-person meeting. And that location has to be open to the public and it has to be within the boundaries of the local agency. The meetings that any member does not attend in person and attends remotely, they've got to have the approval to do so. And even if it's an emergency situation, that there's measures to allow you to add an agenda item approving that remote attendance. Otherwise, you have to have it on the agenda beforehand, and you have to have just cause, which there's a number of different things that constitute just cause, like childcare, a physical or mental disability as defined by statute, travel on official business, a contagious illness that prevents a member from attending in person. So all those things would qualify as just cause for attending remotely. However, there's also a limitation to how many times you can attend remotely. So teleconference it can't be used by any member more than 3 consecutive months or 20% of the regular meetings within a calendar year. And you must also have both audio and visual technology. So you got to have a camera and people have to be able to hear you so that you can participate during the meeting. And then you actually have to disclose whether any individual over 18 is present in that remote location with that member that's attending that way. So all these things, the long story short, come January 1st, we're going to have to start doing these meetings in person, and we will have some new conditions if we want to even provide remote teleconference capabilities. I believe Gordon is probably, in talking to Gordon recently, there wasn't any discussion about making those meetings available at MID because MID is still closed to the public. Is that right, Gordon? That's where we typically meet, or we have met before this whole thing started. We met at MID, and I think that's still not an option. Is that correct, Gordon?
Actually, I asked our management just a couple of days ago, and they did give approval to use our board room. The only thing is because of COVID, they removed quite a bit of seating. So seating capacity is about half or less than what it used to be. It's like 15 people. So if that's adequate for our meeting, we're welcome to use it.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's great. So we'll, as we get closer to the end of the year, I think we'll firm things up. But the other thing was I could make OAD available as well. We're open to the public now. So that's another alternative, but want to let everybody know we're going to have to move to in-person meetings here soon and change things up a little bit. So that will be something that is addressed before the start of the year. Renfro, I got a question.
Yeah, last time or before COVID, we come in or call in. Did you say that? Did I miss that? Would there still be a call in?
So we could provide that option, but if you're a member,
yes,
you cannot do that more than 20% of the time.
Gotcha.
Or more than 3 consecutive months. So, and we'll still have to have a quorum in the in-person location.
Understood. You said that. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we don't have to provide the remote capabilities, but if we do, that's a condition of doing so. Any other questions, comments on AB 2449 or any other items that were too late for the agenda, I should ask as well? Okay, anything on 2449 or from the public? Okay. Well, that's all for this meeting. So I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.